Hello, and welcome to episode 15 of the BigSlice Games cast. I am your host, Corey Stroby, and with me I have Jessica.
Hello.
So we'll just go right into this first topic. This is by Bonnie Burton over at CNET. It says Internet Archive releases 2,500 MS-DOS games so you can relive the 90s. So the article says, if you loved playing MS-DOS games in the 90s like 3D Bomber, Zool, and Alien Rampage, you can now replay those and many more with the latest update from Internet Archive. On Sunday, Internet Archive released 2,500 MS-DOS games that includes action, strategy, and adventure titles. Some of the games are Vorterra, Spooky Kooky Monster Maker, Princess Maker 2, and I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. I remember that title. I don't remember what it looks like. But anyway, continuing, it says, Internet Archive software curator Jason Scott wrote on the site's blog saying, quote, "This will be our biggest update yet, ranging from tiny recent independent productions to long-forgotten big-name releases from decades ago. One game that might trigger a few memories is the 1992 action-adventure horror game Alone in the Dark, published by Infogrames. In the game, you can play Private Investigator Edward Carnby or family member Emily Hartwood, who are investigating the suspicious death of Jeremy Hartwood in his Louisiana mansion called Darsetto, which is now supposedly haunted. Fighting against rats, zombies, and giant worms, you have to solve a number of puzzles to escape. Another retro game included by Internet Archive is a 1994 title played on PCs and Amiga computers called Mr. Blobby, a remake of the SNES game Super Troll Islands. The unusual game published by Millennium Interactive is based on the BBC's TV show character Mr. Blobby from the British TV show Noel's House Party. The Internet Archive is a non-profit digital library that archives digital versions of computer games, books, audio recordings, and videos. For gamers looking for more vintage games, Internet Archive has been preserving and adding games from the 80s and 90s on a regular basis. Last year, the site added more than 200 retro LCD and LED games, including Karnov and Battletoads. So as someone who had a pretty big period of kind of turning into a video game history nerd. None of these games are really nostalgic for me, but I've always been interested in checking them out and playing them just because they're a piece of industry history and gaming history. So it's like Battletoads is a big one. That one is recognizable for a lot of people. But Mr. Blobby, any Game Grumps fans probably remember watching them play Super Troll Islands. It's just this really, really weird. I'll have to put a picture up of it in the video version, but and I'll link the Game Grumps playlist for that game. I don't even remember if they played it for more than one episode, but it's a very strange game. You're basically just filling in, if I'm remembering this game correctly. Yes. You're basically painting in the world by moving around it. It's very strange.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, it's... I kind of want to go... I want to check out this... What's that? Super Troll Islands?
Oh, look it up.
Or the website. So the website's Internet Archive, I believe.
Well, I'm on that, but okay, maybe I didn't play it. Maybe I just saw somebody play that.
Yeah, there's if you actually go on Internet Archive, there's a lot more than just games. It's an archive of hundreds of things.
A lot of stuff. I mean, there's I think there's audio stuff and video and games.
Yeah. Microfilm,
There's
Russian
a lot of
audiobooks.
stuff. Like
Yeah.
they're adding like a handful, like a giant handful of things like every day.
Yeah, it's a giant archive. Yeah, software library, MS-DOS games. There's 6,938 items total in that, and they just added 2,500. So that is a pretty large chunk.
That's crazy.
Yeah, opening that up right away, the original Oregon Trail is there. Prince of Persia, Oregon Trail Deluxe, SimCity, Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man. There's tons and tons of classics. The original Donkey Kong, Golden Axe, Castle Wolfenstein, Doom, the roguelike.
Disney's Aladdin.
Maniac Mansion. Huh. Oh my gosh. See, I didn't even know this existed. This is really cool. Like I didn't actually look at the website before.
There is one game that I'd be interested to see if it's on here. I never ever remember what it's called, but I know I played it a lot in the 90s. It was like kind of like, you know, like one of those weird flash game type things where you would like walk around and like there were like different colored keys for different colored doors. And you'd like make it through each level. I never remember what it was called, but it was such a fun game.
There's a lot of games like that.
I know. It'll be hard to find the one that I remember.
I know Gauntlet was kind of like that. Adventure was. I don't know if it had different colors, but Adventure, it probably wasn't Adventure. Atari's Adventure.
It was on. I played it on PC, so I don't know if that makes a difference.
No, I can't think of it. I know what you're talking about, though. There's a few games like that.
Through 2000. Lord.
Rogue. Oh my gosh, I've never actually gotten it. I've never been able to play that, but I want to try it. So, if a little bit of video game history. This goes a little bit off topic, but it's a game that's actually on this website that just made me think of it. Think of this, but so Rogue, and I'm looking at it right now. Rogue, there's a genre of games called the roguelike, where it's basically a roguelike is basically a game where it's almost like a dungeon crawler, but it resets every time you lose. And like, so you start at the beginning every time you do a run through, but it's different every time. So it's a procedurally generated world every time you play it. So like, if you've ever played The Binding of Isaac or Spelunky.
Spelunky.
Yeah.
I've played that one.
So Spelunky would be one. I'm trying to think of another one off the top of my head. Those are the two that really come to mind. Right off the top of my head. But Rogue was actually the first game to do that, and I don't remember when it actually came out. I don't know if they have 1983. Yeah, so it's a bit old. So it's from 1983, but it was this game where you were like a dwarf or whatever, or no. I'm thinking of Dwarf Fortress. Anyway, so yeah, so Rogue is basically the original roguelike. It was kind of its own thing, so it sparked, this new genre that they just decided to call a roguelike because it's like Rogue. Not to be confused with a roguelite with a T instead of a K, which is generally the same thing, but it's not exactly like Rogue, where everything's procedurally generated and you start off with absolutely nothing right from the beginning. And the whole point of the game is you're learning patterns and you're learning what certain items do, and you're learning like how certain enemies work and stuff. So like the whole attraction to the roguelike is learning how the general mechanics and enemies and stuff work, so that each time you have a little bit more knowledge of what to expect or what certain things do. So like the progress is more just your knowledge of everything in the game rather than leveling up and stuff. And then a roguelite is basically almost usually like an adventure game or something with roguelike elements, where it's procedurally generated, but you still have stuff that carries over.
Interesting.
But yeah, so a little piece of video game history there. But this is really cool because there's a lot of games that I'll read about or hear about just in passing that people are talking about, like back in the day, that I don't really have access to, but now
we do.
Yeah.
There are some interesting games though. There was like, I think I saw like Strip Poker. So there's that. And I saw something like called Sexy Droids. Like this explains a lot about some of those weird, like older millennials.
It's like some of the older games that came out then. Yeah. There were definitely some controversial games back in like toward the end of Atari's days that I don't even know if they'd be on here. They'd probably be on there for historical purposes and stuff, but like there's one off the top of my head that I can think of called Custer's Revenge. I just lost this spot. Oh, there it is. I don't think it would actually be on here though. I can't find. Here we go. Let's see if it's in here. It is not. But yeah, so this looks really cool. I didn't even know this site existed. Just like an archive of older games, like the original Oregon Trail is on there and stuff like that. And it's
That's like a big part of my childhood.
Yeah, I had an updated version of it. Like it had like artwork and stuff on it, like animations and whatnot, other than just the Apple II graphics or whatever it was. Whatever computer it was on, but
Apple, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was on an Apple.
We had like the OG Apple computers in my elementary school, and like we would play Oregon Trail on it a lot. Like it was like part of our like curriculum to play Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep that tab open because I'm gonna play that at some point.
So, are there any games that you could think of off the top of your head that you'd like to play that you probably either haven't been able to in years, or just to get a little taste of video game history?
Well, I mean, like I said, the Oregon Trail would be fun just because it's been probably about at least 20 years. I think I saw like the flight simulator. That's cool.
Yeah.
I played that with that special controller. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
My brain is totally flaking out on me right now.
I know what you're talking about. The that actual joystick thing.
Yeah. Wow, brain, you're just way to just turn off on me. But yeah, no, I mean, I think this would be just like a fun thing, whether you're a streamer or not, like just to go on and just play different games and see what they were like. I mean, if you give each game like a couple minutes, I mean, you could get through a lot of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, so I'll have the link for the website in the show notes and everything, and in the show notes and the YouTube description. But go check out that website, especially if you're like me and just have like if you're like me and just want to dig through kind of video game history and go back in time and just play some games that you've always heard of and heard stories of, but never had the chance to actually play it. Go check it out. Or
like Super Angelo.
I've never heard of that one.
It's apparently just like Super Mario, but it's Super Angelo.
Oh my god. But yeah, so check that out. I know there's probably quite a few games that there's definitely a few games that I want to try. Yeah, Doom is one of them. And I want to try playing. There's a lot of games that I could think of that I would want to play just to try. But yeah, so check that out.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of retro games, this next one is from IGN, or this one's by Joe Screbbles over at IGN. It says, Analogue Pocket announced, stylish handheld will play all Game Boy games ever. Like I said, this is by Joe Screbbles over at IGN. So it says, Analogue has announced the Analogue Pocket, a stylish third-party handheld that will play Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games. It will be available in 2020 for $199.99. Other regions pricing not confirmed at time of writing. Designed by the same team that released the excellent Super NT and Mega SG consoles, the Analogue Pocket has a similar philosophy: to allow you to play cartridge-based retro games in the best possible quality without any emulation. In this case, Analogue promises that the Pocket will play every Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance game out of the box. Cartridge adapters will apparently allow the Pocket to play the likes of Game Gear, Neo Geo Pocket Color, and Atari Lynx games too. The Pocket will display those games on a 3.5-inch LCD screen at 1600 by 1440, 10 times the resolution of the original Game Boy. Analogue claims that, quote, there has never been a display this advanced in a video game system. Alongside cartridge playback, the Pocket will also include a synthesizer sequencer called Nano Loop, used for music creation and live performance.
That's cool.
Yeah. Analogue will also release the Analogue Dock, which works similarly to the Nintendo Switch, allowing you to directly output the Pocket display to your TV. Games can be played with wireless 88-bit. What?
Mm-hmm.
Games can be played with wireless 8-bit What? Oh, 8-bit do controllers or wired USB controllers. No price has been revealed for the dock. I kept seeing the B as another 8, so I was like, wait, what is going on? I kept misreading that.
It's cool. I mean, I'm looking at it, and
it looks
is
pretty
like a
interesting.
modern Game Boy.
Mm-hmm.
I think what needs to be said though is that it's not an emulator. From what at least I'm seeing, there are no games preloaded on it, so you're still going to need the cartridges.
Correct.
So you are going to buy a $200 handheld system, and you're still going to have to find the cartridges of the games you want to play, unless you already have them, which is great. But if if you sold them or mom sold them or whatever, I think you might have a hard time finding what you want to play, which will be crappy if you just spent $200 on the system.
Yeah. $200 is a pretty decent price for like a modern, like it's updated hardware. But yeah, keep in mind that this is not an emulator, so it doesn't have games preloaded on it. This is just a piece of hardware. You actually need the cartridges in order to play. So that's a little bit of a disclaimer. Not that we're selling it or anything, but it does sound really cool. I don't think I could find any of my Game Boy games If I did have a collection of Game Boy games but nothing to play them on, then this would absolutely be something that I might end up getting.
Right.
But
That's
otherwise,
the thing too, is most people who still have their Game Boy games still have their Game Boy. I still have my Game Boy Color and the Game Boy games that came with it. I still have my Nintendo DS and the cartridges that came with it. Like, so like for me, this doesn't necessarily make sense. But yeah, like you said, if you have like a box full of cartridges and nothing to play with, then this is perfect.
Yeah. Or if you just want, you know, an updated piece of hardware that can play all of them so that you can, you know, sell your original Game Boys and whatnot. Or if you just want them to be cleaned up and put on display and not used, and then just get this, then that's another thing that you can do. Because I know I have a cousin that's a collector, so she has like the entire I want to say she has the entire SNES library.
Wow.
In her collection. I know she has a completed collection for one or two of the systems. Probably more of the systems now, but I know that she probably has a couple systems that don't play anything, that are just more for display. So they look pretty but don't work very well. It's more to just kind of have a complete collection. But either way, if you do have like a giant game collection and you want something that can just play all of them, this is definitely a good investment. Plus, with it being new and updated and having better quality and whatnot, that I'm sure,
and being able to hook it up to your TV, that's cool.
Yeah. Which I don't even know if that isn't coming out yet.
But eventually.
Yeah. No price has been revealed for the dock. So the dock, it sounds like that the dock is officially announced, but no details beyond that. So a dock of some kind is coming, but not sure when or how much it'll be. But yeah, this sounds like it'll be really cool. I saw some images of what it looks like, and it looks really nice.
It does.
It's a pretty piece of hardware, that's for sure.
It does look really nice. I'm reading through the comments right now, and they're kind of cracking me up, but the system itself looks good.
Yeah, and Analogue. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, the comments are basically saying what we're discussing, like how some people, you know, don't like the price, or, you know, some of them are like, you know, emulators are free, right? But like,
yeah, but they're also illegal.
They are illegal, and also like if you're playing an emulator, say on like your phone, like not having those physical buttons makes a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah, the physical buttons are definitely a thing. But the reason why Analogue does stuff like this, where it's not an emulator, they are against illegal emulation because it's bad for business. You're stealing property. It'd be the same thing if you were to download a movie illegally and then, well, it wouldn't be the same thing as selling it, but downloading it illegally is, don't do that.
Yeah, they don't like that. My dad got a letter once.
Really?
From the FBI.
Are you serious? Oh my God.
Uh-huh. They're like, please cease and desist.
Yeah, so don't do that. It's not it's not a victimless crime. Yeah, the movies make a lot of money or games make a lot of money, but you'd ultimately be hurting the studio and the developers in that case. So the people who are making the game are the ones who are going to end up getting hurt by it. There's a whole hierarchy of politics of development that goes into that, but I'm not going to go into that. But either way, emulation's illegal. Don't do it. It's kind of crappy to do that.
Yeah.
I think the Internet Archive is a totally different thing. Like everything's credited, and I think that's totally. I think what they're doing is illegal, but either way.
Also, if for the most part, I feel like a lot of those games, like the rights just maybe at some point just got released.
Yeah.
Because they're older. I mean, same things happen with songs. And I know, like, I think the Grinch just got, like, the rights released. So, like, it happens in all different things.
Yeah.
So that
What
might have been what
happens is
happened with
like,
the games.
yeah. What happens is the copyright expires, and if they don't reclaim it, it goes into public domain, making it free reign.
Right.
And anybody could actually claim that legally if they decide to buy it or claim it, which is kind of crappy to do that. But I mean, the law's the law, I guess. But either way, so if you want to get something where like you don't have to actually emulate it, or you're against emulation for whatever reason because it's because you don't want to be involved in illegal activity, or you think it's immoral to steal games just to play them whenever you want for free, then the Analog Pocket's definitely something to get. Same thing with the Super NT and Mega SG consoles, which I'm pretty sure are Super Nintendo and Sega Master System, respectively. Pretty sure. Yeah. Pretty sure the other one's the Mega Master System.
I don't know.
Let's find out. Just kidding. It's the Genesis.
Slick.
I think. Yeah. Rather than attempting to be tiny, accurately modeled Sega Genesis. Yeah, so those are kind of the same thing where you're actually playing the cartridges rather than an emulation. But yeah, it looks pretty neat. It's definitely something that I'm gonna look into. Maybe I don't have. It might not be for me because I really don't have Game Boy games around to play anymore. I have no idea where they are.
Right, that's what I'm saying. You'll have to drop $200 and then drop another however many on cartridges that you're gonna have to find.
Yeah. Which can range.
But it is pretty.
Yeah. It really is. It looks really awesome.
It's very sleek.
Yeah. Very modern. It looks. You'll be able to see it. It's in the It'll be in the YouTube video version of this.
You'll be able to see it. Just go find it. Just go look.
Just go look. Search it. I'll have links.
Watching the YouTube video, great. Here it is.
Yeah. If you're not watching the YouTube version, then
what's wrong with you?
It'll be in the show notes and stuff. Anyway, anything to add on that?
Nah.
Okay, so this one I actually came across this yesterday as I was putting these topics together, and I replaced a different topic with this one. Now I don't remember what it was.
Maybe it wasn't important.
Oh, it was Riot has some crazy games coming out outside of League of Legends, or it's within League of Legends, but they're like making a bunch of different games for it. We'll talk about that if we have time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is Oxford researchers say clinical gaming disorder lacks sufficient evidence. This is by Alyssa McCallan over at Gamma Sutra from yesterday, the 21st. So it says, based on the findings of a recent study, Oxford researchers say they, quote, do not believe sufficient evidence exists to warrant thinking about gaming as a clinical disorder in its own right. The study, published by Oxford's Internet Institute, gathered data from over 1,000 adolescents and their caregivers, but unlike how researchers say other studies have been performed, also examined the context surrounding a person's gaming habits. And I actually have stuff from the site. I should have opened that first. So reading directly from the site, whoops. And I'll have this linked in there. But it's that right there. So it says, based on data from over 1,000 adolescents and their caregivers, the study suggests those engaged in dysfunctional gaming are likely to have underlying frustrations and wider psychosocial functioning issues outside of games. These issues are likely to lead them to seek contentment by gaming rather than being negatively impacted by gaming itself. Professor Andrew Przybylski, director of research at the Oxford Internet Institute and co-author of the study, said, quote, "The World Health Organization and the American Psychiatric Association have called on researchers to investigate the clinical relevance of dysregulated video gaming among adolescents, as previous studies have failed to examine the wider context of what is going on in these young people's lives. This is something we seek to address with our new study. For the first time, we apply motivational theory and open science principles to investigate if psychological need satisfactions and frustrations in adolescents' daily lives are linked to dysregulated or obsessive gaming engagement. Our findings provided no evidence suggesting an unhealthy relationship with gaming accounts for substantial emotional, peer, and behavioral problems. Instead, variations in gaming experience are much more likely to be linked to whether adolescents' basic psychological needs for competence, autonomy, and social belonging are being met, and if they are already experiencing wider functioning issues. In light of our findings, we do not believe sufficient evidence exists to warrant thinking about gaming as a clinical disorder in its own right." So, continuing with the Kama Sutra article, it says, the study was prompted by the World Health Organization and its recent and controversial decision to classify gaming disorder as an addiction-oriented disorder in the most recent revision of the International Compendium of Diseases. However, researchers note that the study isn't the end-all be-all of the issue, and that it's difficult to get to the core of the problem without additional data from game developers themselves. Przybylski explains, quote, whilst the growing popularity of gaming has incited concerns from healthcare and mental health professions, our research provides no compelling evidence that games on their own are to blame for problems facing players. We need better data and the cooperation of video gaming companies if we are to get to the bottom of all of this. So this caught my attention because obviously I too felt that the World Health Organization kind of jumped the gun with classifying it as gaming disorder. Like I'm not an expert in any of that, but it did seem it seemed rushed, or just, I trust the World Health Organization with a lot of things, but I think this one was a little off. Because it seemed off to me because a lot of mental health professionals and psychologists and like 50 psychologists and scientists, based on, I forgot what the quote actually was. This was over a year ago or earlier this year when it was actually put into the Compendium of Diseases, but yeah, because that would have come out this year, I think. Either way, a lot of mental health and psychology professionals or medical professionals thought that this was a little rushed and almost impulsive of the organization to put in, because of the very reason that there's not really enough evidence to support it. Not enough studies have been done. Not enough studies with the context that Przybylski explains here about, like, context of what's going on in individuals' lives. Like, you can't, like, what if they're trying to escape from something and gaming is the only thing that brings them peace of mind. Like, you can't classify that as an addiction to games. You have to classify that as, you know, as more or less a toxic repression of dealing with the issue at hand by using gaming as, you know, sort of a stress relief.
I think it'd be like a weird version of like OCD or something like that. Because I know, like, they were talking about this on the radio the other day. Like, if you eat mac and cheese every single day of your life because it's the only thing that brought you peace when you were in an abusive household growing up, then I think that's like an OCD thing, like a weird stem from OCD. So I think this kind of falls under the same thing.
Gaming is like, it brings you satisfaction or peace that your regular everyday life isn't doing, kind of thing. Or yeah, like you said, stems from OCD, where if it's a habit and, you know, it's ingrained in your mind, from, you know, from trauma from the past. So like, if gaming was something that you used to drown out like domestic violence going on between parents when you were young, gaming automatically just brings you peace because it was your escape from something like that. It was your distraction. So like, whenever you start getting panicky or anxious, or something's triggering a panic attack that reminds you of that trauma, and gaming was your escape, you're going to go to that for your escape in that same situation. But either way,
right.
What Przybylski was kind of saying here was like, yeah, it could be stemming from it's not the game itself. It's not gaming itself most of the time. Gaming is just the medium that they happen to use as stress relief from something else. And that's kind of what I do. I use video games for escapism a lot of times. Well, there's specific games that I play for escapism. No Man's Sky is definitely one where if I'm feeling, like if I'm going through a rough time, like anxiety or depression or whatever, No Man's Sky is a really good peace game for me, personally. But
Minecraft is my peace game.
Yeah, that one's a lot of people's peace game, and I can see why. It's just, you go into this. I can see how Minecraft would be really peaceful.
It's the music, and
yeah,
you can just turn your brain off. Like if you're like making a mine or something, like just turn your brain off and just mine away, or you can build something. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, but it's definitely my peace game.
Yeah.
And you can even turn it on peaceful and not have to worry about any monsters, and that makes it even more peaceful.
Yeah,
I
like turning mobs off and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, actually for a little while, when I think like 5 or 6 years ago, I would watch Minecraft Let's Plays for escapism. So like, I wasn't playing it myself, I was watching other people to play it, and that was, you kind of develop a relationship with what almost feels like a relationship when you're watching a YouTuber do something like that, because it feels like they're talking to you when you're in their audience, and there's something peaceful about that. I know you're not actually socializing with them, and that can be that could be dangerous if you do it too much, because that it for many psychological reasons, I guess. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but like, I have read quite a few books on like psychology, and this is definitely one that makes sense. And he actually, I think it was on the site. There was a specific quote that stood out to me. If I can find it. Here it is. Instead, variations in gaming experience are much more likely to be linked to whether adolescents' basic psychological needs for competence, autonomy, and social belonging are met, and if they are already experiencing wider functioning issues. The idea of competence, autonomy, and social belonging, or social connectivity, was actually 3 things that was brought up in one of the books that I read. I want to say it was the UX book by Celia Hodent, who was recently quoted in that Fortnite lawsuit about Fortnite being over addicting. She was the UX designer that they claimed was a psychologist being used to make the game more addicting. But her book explains like the idea of competence, autonomy, and social connectivity. And same thing with Jane McGonigal's book. Reality is Broken. How like video games tend to fulfill really quickly fulfill our psychological needs of competence, autonomy, and sometimes social connectivity, depending on what games you're playing. If you're playing a party game or if you're playing online, you have a stronger sense of social connectivity through that. But a lot of it is but based on that claim right there, that's to say that that video games are serving those psychological needs that their regular lives aren't. So they're playing video games. They might be playing video games obsessively because those needs aren't being met in their everyday lives. So they're not addicted to video games. They're trying to fulfill psychological needs that aren't being fulfilled in everyday life. So if you take away video games because you think that they're addicted to the game, you're taking away the only thing that's actually, that's actually fulfilling needs that aren't being fulfilled in their regular day-to-day lives. So you need to figure out a way to fulfill those outside of the games if you want them to, stop playing them so much. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
At least that's what I'm taking away from this, based on what I read in the couple books that I quoted, or not really quoted, but mentioned. But yeah, this stood out to me because he mentioned that, and it's like that. Well, that's something that I've definitely read before. A couple chapters on the fulfillment of competence, autonomy, and social connectivity. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think about like the idea of gaming disorder based on this?
Like you said, we're not experts.
Right.
I do think they jumped the gun when they claimed that it's a disorder. Not saying that it necessarily isn't, but there are so many things that go into factor a disorder. Just if somebody's playing for 17 hours a day, while not healthy, doesn't necessarily mean it's a disorder. It doesn't mean it's like from video games, like you said, it could stem from something else. So I think they need to somehow find a way to like research, like whether they have, if they could like study participants, like if the participants could either be in the hospital and they study them, or they can study them while they're at home. There needs to be a lot more research done.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what this case was, or at least a start, because when you look at the actual site for this study, where is it? So looking at the, I guess, 5th paragraph, if you count the one sentence one, it says, it says the study tested hypotheses considering the extent to which adolescents exhibiting dysregulated gaming reliably links to whether their basic psychological needs were being met. Adolescents complete questionnaires about their gaming behavior, including providing details of how long they spent playing video games, with whom they played, and if they used the internet to play games, and their caregivers rated their child's emotional and social health. Key findings include most adolescents played at least one internet-based game daily. Less than half of daily online gamers reported symptoms of obsessive gaming. Daily players were highly engaged, devoting an average of 3 hours a day to games. And there was little evidence that obsessive gaming significantly impacted adolescents' outcomes. And it kind of just rehashed what Gamasutra did in a closing statement for this. But the full study, I'll post a link to it. But the full study, titled "Investigating the Motivational and Psychosocial Dynamics of Dysregulated Gaming: Evidence from a Pre-Registered Cohort Study." And like I said, I'll post a link to that actual study in the show notes. I don't know if we have. Oh, yep, sure enough, access to the full study is right there. There's lots of there's lots of math and statistics that are a little over my head just looking at it. But you can get a good idea just through reading the abstract paragraph at the top. But if you are a little bit more of an expert in psychology or statistics, you can read the entire study. It might be a little bit less over your head than for us. I'm still going to read it and try and understand it as much as I can. But yeah, so the entire study is going to be in the show notes, so you have access to that. And this is definitely this is a legitimate study, so it's not just us giving an opinion on it. It's an educated opinion based on what we read from this. But definitely check that out. I'm probably gonna read it at some point this week when I have time to, but definitely something interesting and something that I'm going to be continuing to follow if anything continues to unfold from this. I don't think the World Health Organization is going to change their stance, once it's written in. I think it's a little harder to take it out. Mm-hmm. It has to be challenged quite a few times. But I'm sure this is a good start. But yeah, a lot more needs to be looked into before gaming disorder can be like something that you should actually consider being a diagnosis.
Right, because it's not something that people are ingesting like alcohol or drugs, where you could very clearly see a correlation between what they're ingesting and a disorder that comes from it or an addiction. So it's not like that. So I think there's just a lot more work that needs to get put into it before they can decide what it is or is not.
Yeah. Plus with alcohol and alcohol drugs. Or drugs or substances of some kind, you can see a change in the brain chemistry just through MRI scans. Yeah. You can see chemical changes in brain scans after someone's been an addict. Like their brain chemistry is altered. Whereas this, when you're playing games, your brain is lighting up, but it's from your brain being stimulated. Whereas if you're watching TV, it's not nearly as stimulated as when you're doing something interactive. But you're not seeing a change in brain chemistry like you would in drugs or anything like that. So having this being an addiction-oriented disorder doesn't seem like a very smart move, or a very, I don't want to say very an uneducated move, because I don't want to challenge the World Health Organization and call them uneducated, but I think this was a little bit of an impulsive move. Just to sate parents. I don't know what would have gone into this decision. But either way, I think this is a good kind of scratch of the surface on what gaming disorder really is. Which isn't a disorder based on gaming itself. It's other disorders that, you know, people are using gaming as a means to escape from. And diagnosing them with gaming disorder isn't going to help them in any way. All you're doing is taking away the thing you're essentially taking away their, what's the word? You're taking away their coping mechanism without giving them anything else to replace it with. So all you're doing is going to make their problem worse because you're not dealing with the actual problem. You're just taking away their coping mechanism. And even if it is an unhealthy coping mechanism, it's a coping mechanism either way. And if you don't deal with the actual problem, they're just going to find something probably worse to cope with.
Right.
You know, gaming.
What they could do as well, possibly, I don't know how well it necessarily would work, but if they could find some honest adults and survey them, maybe, because I mean, let's be real, video games mainly became a huge thing when we were kids. So if they could find people our age and ask and survey and just see how they grew up and how they turned out, maybe that could also lend a hand and, you know, what could happen, or you know what I mean? Yeah.
Like as kind of an extension to this study.
Yeah.
Like examine.
Kind of like seeing into the future by looking at the past.
Yeah, okay. I see what you mean. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so like examining adults who used gaming as a coping mechanism to better predict adolescents' behaviors, I guess.
And it doesn't even necessarily have to be a coping mechanism. If you can find someone who uses a coping mechanism, that's awesome, because that'll lead to better results. But just asking people in general, because I know I probably spent a good amount of time on video games.
Yeah.
It wasn't for coping. At least I don't think. No, food was more coping. But yeah, I mean, I spent a good amount of time on video games, and I don't have any sort of addictions or disorder for that. So I think it could lead results to show that it doesn't, and it could lead to results that show that it does, especially if they can find people who did use it as coping.
Yeah. It's all going to be based on the context of the actual population of the study, or the I guess the sample. Well, a sample might be too small for something like this. Or no, never mind. Sample would be the right term. It's been a while since I took a statistics class. But if they do like a case study and you know, grab a handful of different people from different, you know, backgrounds or different childhoods, different traumas and stuff, and examine their game playing habits based around the context of their own personal lives, pretty much, you know, the broader the sample, the more results that you can get. Either way. So that's something to look out for. Like I said, the study will be in the show notes and in the YouTube description, so that you can actually look and read at the actual study, rather than just the article about it. And if it's a little over your head, that's fine. I mean, it's an official like psychology study, so there are going to be stuff that's going to be over your head if you're not like an actual expert. I know there's going to be stuff that's going to be a little over my head, but I want to try and understand it as best as I can.
Right.
Yeah. Anything else to add to that?
You still there?
Yeah.
Okay. You went silent. I was like, wait.
Oh, did you hear me ask that question?
No, I guess I did not.
Okay. I was just asking if there was anything else you wanted to add to that.
Oh,
Okay. Getting to the kind of the main topic of this, I guess not really a main topic. It's just more stuff on the whole Blizzard stuff from last week.
Continuation.
Yeah. So Blizzard controversy continues to unfold. Some of this is a little less recent. Both of these articles are from like the 15th and the 16th. And the day that we're recording this is the 22nd. So this was still somewhat mid last week. Excuse me. So this first one, Blizzard cancels Overwatch live event at Nintendo World in New York. This is by Hayden Taylor over at gamesindustry.biz. It says, with Overwatch arriving on Nintendo Switch today, developer Blizzard Entertainment has canceled its New York launch event at Nintendo World. The move comes amid growing dissent among fans after Blizzard suspended Hearthstone pro player Blitzchung Ngwai over his post-match interview comments supporting Hong Kong protesters. Blizzard originally planned a live meet and greet with some of the game's voice actors, but canceled the event with only a day's notice, offering no explanation. Since banning Ngwai from professional play for 12 months and confiscating his winnings, Blizzard has come under intense criticism from fans and commentators for its apparent support of Chinese censorship. However, the company has since dialed back its punishment of Ngwai, reducing the ban to 6 months and returning his winnings from the Hearthstone Grandmasters tournament. Blizzard also denied that business interests in China had anything to do with its decision to penalize Ngwai. These gestures appear to have done little to dampen the flames of hostility, though, as digital rights nonprofit organization Fight for the Future is currently organizing protests for BlizzCon. The protest is planned to take place outside of Anaheim Convention Center on November 1st, Thursday of BlizzCon at noon. So pretty much immediately after, what, can you still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It says RTC disconnected on the Discord, so I'm making sure that it didn't interrupt the recording.
No, I mean, you had a weird moment, but it was...
Okay. It looks like Craig is still recording, so it should be an issue. Yeah, so pretty much right after the whole thing went down with Blitzchung, like a day later, Blizzard canceled this Overwatch launch event for the Nintendo Switch, which I think I think by the sounds of it, it was more or less just like they were going to have voice actors there, and it's like if protests got out of hand, the voice actors don't want to have to deal with that too. So it's like they pretty much predicted that, okay, if we continue with this event, it's going to be a giant mess. And I think it was probably better of them to have canceled it. It's disappointing, but I mean, in light of what was going on, that event could have been disastrous.
Right.
With protesters, I don't know. I know a lot of people were probably upset that they canceled the event, but I mean, I'm not a big Overwatch fan, so it's like I can't really relate to that.
I can't either.
Personally, yeah.
I'm not really an Overwatch person. I tried for like a hot second, and I was like, nah.
One thing that did stand out to me in this article specifically, though, was it says Blizzard has come under intense criticism from fans and commentators for its apparent support of Chinese censorship. I think it's a little... I still think it's a little unfair to accuse. I think it's a little... It sounds a little accusational to say that they support Chinese censorship. or I think it's a little not impulsive. I think it's a little unfair to say that they support Chinese censorship, because when you look at the context of all of this, yeah, it happened to be, Hong Kong happened to be the target of whatever this protest was.
Mm-hmm.
But Blizzard, again, was just, they were enforcing their rule that was written in the handbook, like I was saying last week. I was told by someone, but I didn't find any articles to back it up, but someone had said that Blizzard, getting into this next article, yeah, I guess we can just go right into this. So this second article, U.S. Hearthstone players banned for Hong Kong protest. So another group was actually banned the same way that Blitzchung was.
Mm-hmm.
The context is slightly different, but anyway, so this is U.S. Hearthstone players banned for Hong Kong protest. This is by Brendan Sinclair over at GamesIndustry.biz. This was a day after the previous article that I just read. But it says,
Mm-hmm.
Blizzard has issued a 6-month ban to a trio of American university students who held up a sign saying, quote, "Free Hong Kong, boycott Blizz," during the Hearthstone Collegiate Championships last week. In a post on the rulings page of the official Hearthstone site, Blizzard explained the ban, saying the players, quote, "Giant Dwarf, T-Jammer, and Excelsior were in violation of Section 7.1.b of the Hearthstone Collegiate Championship rules for engaging in behavior disruptive to the official esports broadcast." According to the site of tournament organizer TESPA, Section 7.1.b reads as follows. It says, quote, "Participants shall treat all individuals watching or participating in a TESPA event with respect. Participants may not take any action or perform any gesture directed at another participant, TESPA admin, or any other party, or incite others to do the same, which is abusive, insulting, mocking, or is disruptive. Players may not use obscene gestures or profanity in the account names, player handles, team names, game chat, lobby chat, or live interviews. This includes abbreviations and or obscure references." So just reading off of that, a call to action to boycott Blizzard on a live stream during one of their championships. Did you really think that you weren't going to get banned for something like that? Like,
I mean, but does it say anything about what their statements are? Because I'm sure they knew what they were doing.
what do you mean? Like,
does it say anything like are they like, "Oh, this isn't fair," or is it like?
Yes, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So at the end of the article, they have a quote at the end of the article. So here, let me get to that. Here, I'll finish reading the article, but yeah, they do have a quote. They have a quote at the end of this, but a video of the match shows the American University team held up the sign at the match's conclusion without additional comment. The three players held up the sign to protest Blizzard's punishment for another Hearthstone player, Blitzchung Nguai, who was banned for a year for supporting Hong Kong protesters in a post-match interview at the Hearthstone Grandmasters tournament. After much criticism and numerous protests like that of the American University team, Blizzard reduced Nguai's ban to 6 months in a statement released Friday evening. In the same statement, Blizzard President J. Allen Brack insisted the company's business interests in China had no impact on how it handled the matter, saying, quote, "We will continue to apply tournament rules to ensure our official broadcasts remain focused on the game and are not a platform for divisive social or political views." The ban on the American University players comes after a longer wait than they had expected. In the days after their protest, they said there had been no word from Blizzard or the Hearthstone Collegiate Championship organizer, and they had even been scheduled for their next match in the competition. The team said, quote, "We feel it's hypocritical for Blizzard to punish Blitzchung, but not us. The response from Blizzard shows that as soon as the messaging is out of the view of China, they don't care about political messaging." Yeah, so I didn't get that the first time I read this, but basically that quote came out shortly after they did it, before they were actually banned. Yeah. Who knows if that was a challenge to Blizzard and Blizzard decided to act to cover their tracks. I'm not going to say that that's the case, because that's getting into, I don't want to say conspiracy territory, but there's no evidence to support that it was a cover up. So I'm not really gonna go down that road. But the way that I'm looking at this is that when Blitzchung did it, it happened like right away. Like, it happened live. You know, he did something very controversial, and with him being a scheduled interview, Blizzard knew exactly who it was that was doing it, and knew exactly what rule he was breaking. I think when it comes to this, I don't know the context of the actual video, because I didn't see it. But if by the sounds of it, the video happened kind of quickly. I guess the camera panned over to that team, and then they held up the sign, and they quickly cut back to a different camera view. So it happened kind of fast, and it wasn't as obvious as when Blitzchung did it.
Right.
So I don't know if they took
he just straight up said it, right?
Yeah, he just straight up went up and said,
yeah, he had the platform, and he was like free Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Free Hong Kong. Had a sign.
Yeah, and they had a sign. That was also a collegiate championship rather than the Grandmasters tournament. I don't know, like, there's a few things that go into this, but it's like it can't really be treated the same way, because it's like it's a different. I mean, it's treated the same way because it's, at the end of the day, it's still the same. It's the same movement and same rule that's being broken, pretty much.
All right.
But it might be just because it's a different tournament. It took them a little bit longer to get things figured out, or who knows if it was because they challenged it. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about the whole thing. Like, I don't know. I think Blizzard's getting a little bit too much heat over this, and that continues to be an unpopular opinion. Because when you look at the facts without looking at the context, I know context is important, but when you take away the context, all Blizzard was doing was enforcing a rule, and that's it. They did not have to reduce the sentence, and they did do a 6-month suspension for this collegiate team rather than the full year. Of course, I don't know if the rules are different. It doesn't look like it. Just looking at the article itself, it doesn't actually say what the suspension was supposed to be, but they did do 6 months for the collegiate team. But either way, I think this is probably even still going to keep unfolding. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Can you still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just making sure.
I was just trying to see where your thought process was going.
guess I really don't know what Blizzard is going to do, because it's like no matter what they do, they're going to get criticism for it, because they got criticism for not banning someone for doing that, and then they got more criticism for doing it again. It's like no matter what they do, everyone's going to come up with some reasoning to suggest that they're just trying to cover their tracks or whatever. So it's like they didn't punish this collegiate team right away, and then rumors were going around that as soon as it's out of the view of China, so of course they're not going to care about it as much this time. It's because they're in support of the Chinese government rather than free speech. But then they do go through with the suspension. Who knows if it's because the college team challenged them, or because there was more review that had a longer review process that had to go through with this one. Who knows? But as soon as they do follow through with it, now all of a sudden Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Am I cutting out a lot again?
Yeah.
All right, I'm not sure why it's doing this. This is really annoying. It says I have a decent connection, so I don't know what's going on.
You're okay right now, but
okay. I don't know if it's just the connection or if Craig's even recording me very well.
Well, you should be.
Okay. All right, I'm going to try saying that one more time. Basically, pretty much anything that Blizzard does at this point is going to be painted in a way that makes them look bad. By anyone who's following the story.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, I think I said this last week too. We are having issues with China right now, so that doesn't help.
Yeah. I think no matter what, Blizzard's going to be kind of stuck, because like I said, no matter what they do at this point, everyone's going to look at the negative side of it, just because they were simply enforcing a rule that, in light of these protests, they get painted as the bad guy just because, I don't know, because everyone wants to be political about it, I guess. But yeah, we'll see. We'll probably see what happens when BlizzCon comes around in a couple weeks. Next week? No, week after. Not this Friday, but next Friday.
After, I think.
Next Friday. This whole BlizzCon thing's gonna go down, and who knows what's gonna happen. I hope it doesn't turn violent. I don't think it will, but this sounds like it's gonna be bad.
No, I don't think it'll be violent, but I think it'll make a huge impact on BlizzCon.
Yeah. Blizzard's kind of backed into a corner at this point. No matter what they do, they're not going to be able to fix this anytime soon.
No.
I think the only way that they could quote unquote fix it is by not banning people, but it's like, okay, well then where do they draw the line? Where, like, if they stop banning people for doing stuff like this when that's not the focus of the tournament, where are they actually able to draw the line where it's not going to cause where it's not going to, inspire a bunch of criticism toward them. I just think it's kind of stupid what Blizzard's kind of gotten themselves into. Not really gotten themselves into, but like just the situation in general. Just got super messy, I guess.
Yeah, it's a bad situation for sure.
And
like I said, because of the political storm that America and China are in, because of some people, that doesn't help. And
yeah.
And whether it's the company itself or people trying to make political statements, it's just all one kind of big chaotic movement right now.
Yeah. And I don't think it's gonna... It's not going to calm down anytime soon, I don't think. Excuse me, I don't think.
No. I mean, I wouldn't... It would suck, but I wouldn't be surprised if BlizzCon possibly got canceled or something like crazy like that. Like if it gets too crazy.
I don't think they could.
Like I don't think. Yeah, like I don't think they'll necessarily cancel because it's really big. But I think it's going to take a hit somehow.
Yeah, well, there's already the protest that's planned for it. But BlizzCon is so big that I think canceling it or anything like that, postponing it, whatever, is going to be a bigger mess than just dealing with the protests.
Yeah.
But yeah, I imagine BlizzCon's going to be... That's going to be rough. But I'm sure someone's going to share a play-by-play if it gets bad enough. I'm sure we're going to talk about whatever happens. But yeah, just kind of a continuation of Blizzard controversy. Not really anything new to add other than just like, that collegiate team got banned for pretty much the same exact thing that Blitzchung did. But whatever. It is what it is, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything else to add to that?
Well, like what I usually say for these kind of things, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Yeah, I didn't really have a whole lot of stories this week. I've been busy kind of getting ready to move out to Champaign, Illinois. So I didn't have a whole lot of time to research stuff. I'm sure things are... I'm not sure what's going to happen with the podcast just yet. We are still going to do it. But scheduling is probably going to get shaken up a bit.
Yeah. I mean, even if we have to take a couple weeks for like a settling hiatus, I'm sure it's fine.
I'll keep everyone updated on that. So anyone listening, be sure to look on social media pages for BigSlice Games, or if you follow me, I'm sure I'll mention something. But if you follow BigSlice Games on Facebook and on Twitter, you'll probably see an announcement once I figure out what to do, when we figure out how to go about scheduling. But either way, okay, out this week. Whoops. There's still something going on with IGN's website, so I'm just going to read it from Game Informer.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at IGN's website, and I guess they only show so many games when you're looking at all platforms, but if you change it to specific platforms, then it shows everything
that's weird.
Coming out for that platform. But it's like, I'm not going to go through and go through all the different platforms.
No.
For that. But where did I say to start from? Okay, so all right, so out on the 22nd, that's today as of this recording. You have Moons of Madness on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. The Legend of Heroes: Trails of Cold Steel 3 on PlayStation 4. You have WWE 2K20, and that's it for the 22nd. Tomorrow, the 23rd, we have Lonely Mountains Downhill on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, PC, Mac, and Linux. On the 24th, you have Cat Quest 2 on Switch. On the 25th, Call of Duty Modern Warfare is out. That's on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. You have Medieval on PlayStation 4. The Outer Worlds on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. On the 29th, After Party is out on PlayStation 4 and PC. Harvest Moon Mad Dash on PlayStation 4 and Switch. Resident Evil 5 on Switch. Resident Evil 6 on Switch. And Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. And Vampire on Switch. So not a whole lot, at least on this list. There's probably a lot more, but for time's sake, those are kind of the big ones. Yeah. Not really anything I'm particularly playing this week from this list or that I want to get. I do want to get Call of Duty, just because the new Modern Warfare game sounds like it's gonna be a little different. I wouldn't mind getting back into Call of Duty for this time around. But the Outer Worlds sounds like it's doing really well.
Yeah, that's what I heard too. A lot of people, it's getting some good reviews.
Yeah, because the reviews were going up this week. So that sounds like it's doing really well. I heard Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD. Sega is putting Sonic the Hedgehog in as an unlockable character.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So I guess you can unlock Sonic, which is cool. But that's about it.
Yeah.
I would like a new Super Monkey Ball game, but yeah, I might try it actually if I have some spare money. But if I have some spare money, it's probably going to be spent on Outer Worlds, or After Party is one that I've been looking forward to. Yeah. Any games coming out this week that you're looking forward to?
I might look into Outer Worlds. Probably not now, because I'm trying to save some money. Probably that's it, honestly.
Yeah. There's a lot of games that I want to play, but it's like I've been trying to focus on specific games. I'm almost done. I guess we can go into what we're playing. Yeah. I'm almost done with Link's Awakening. I'm on level 8. Like I want to say that's one of the last dungeons or whatever. I forgot what that one was. The turtle one.
Oh yeah, I think that's the second to last one.
Okay.
Or that might be the last one, and then the next thing isn't technically a dungeon, but kind of is.
It's like the last level or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm almost done with that. I started playing A Way Out with my brother. That's the game from crap. Who made that? From Hazelight Studios. It's an EA property, but it's this weird. So the premise is like you're trying to escape prison together. I guess. Yeah, so it's a multiplayer only game, which is kind of weird, but it's split screen, and you each play a different character, who kind of has their own sort of backstory, and you're working together to get out of prison. And then there's some crazy story stuff that happens after that, but like I watched a playthrough, but my brother hasn't actually played it or seen it yet, so he's playing it for the first time. So we've been playing that together. Probably going to play more of that tonight, but other than that, just Link's Awakening. And yeah, that's all I've been playing.
Nice.
Got any time to play anything?
Not really. I was kind of busy last weekend, and I'll be super busy this weekend. We have a wedding that we'll be at literally all day on Saturday. Like we're starting at 8 a.m.
Good Lord.
Yeah, like that's like when we have to be there. It'll be fun though. It's our last one of the season. But anyway, I hit up to the Minecraft server for a little bit just to chill while in a party with our new clan friends. And other than that, that was kind of it.
Very lighthearted gaming sessions, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up all we have for this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we won't go into any like breaking news or anything. We'll cover it next week, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thank you guys so much for listening. If you want to follow BigSlice Games, you can follow BigSlice Games at BigSlice Games on Twitter and on Facebook. You can find the podcast. Well, you can find the audio of the podcast on SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, and the Google Play Store. And you can find the video version on YouTube at BigSlice Games. You can find all of those if you just search for BigSlice Gamescast. You should be able to find it. You can follow me on Twitter at StrobbeOfficial. That's STROBBE official, all one word. And Jessica, where can they find you?
You can find me personally on Twitter at PhoenixLeeJS, or if you're interested in seeing my photography stuff, especially if I show a sneak peek from this coming Saturday, you can find me on all handles at JL Boone Photography.
Cool. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.